Hi, thank you very much. Thanks, Julian. Is feedback okay? Okay, I'm going to keep shouting over feedback. So yeah, my name's FranklinTill. I'm co-founder and co-director of FranklinTill Studio. Effectively, we're a design research studio working with a broad range of clients across the lifestyle industries. So basically, we're continually working to amass research, particularly what's going on in the creative industries, mapping socio-cultural trends, looking at emerging behavioural trends, and how that's perhaps giving rise to new desires for products and services. So our work sort of spans 6 main areas. We produce forecasting insight reports, publications, so we edit Viewpoint magazine, exhibitions and events, art direction and styling, workshops and presentations, and concept development. Today I'm going to talk specifically about one project, which was really close to our heart. It was actually, I suppose, a self-initiated project. And obviously based around the theme of food. So this is Secret Sensory Suppers. So the project came about when we basically were having a conversation with one of our clients at the Andaz Hotel, and they said, we want to make some noise during London Design Festival, and particularly about this amazing space that they have within the hotel. I don't know if anybody's ever visited it. So this is their Masonic Temple, which was actually built in 1912, and it was designed by an architect called Charles Barry, who was the son of the same name Charles Barry, who designed the Houses of Parliament. When it was built in 1912, it cost £50,000 to build, which is the equivalent of around 4 million today. And it's got a really lovely story in it. It was basically boarded up for many, many years, and they discovered it by accident in 1990 when it was formerly the Great Eastern Hotel, and they were basically doing some renovations, and they kind of took down a wall and stumbled across the Masonic Temple. So this is now used as an event space, and basically, yeah, the Andaz team came to us and said, look, we really want to sort of make some noise around this Masonic temple. So we sort of were looking at what the research that we were amassing at the studio at the time, and because this was for London Design Festival, I mean, we had the privilege of visiting many sort of cities across the world, looking at design for many sort of global design events, and we were seeing that there were more design festivals popping up in more cities across the world than there ever have been. But the overwhelming sort of conversations and feedback and discussions that we were having with journalists and PRs and designers, people were saying, no more chairs, I can't take any more chairs, I don't want to go to a design festival and look at any more chairs, I don't want to just look at stuff. I feel as if, you know, there's this saturation of design objects being produced, and we're starting to really question, you know, why are we making these objects, and why are we going to these cities to look at them? So we sort of set our own brief that we didn't want it to, we were very interested in this sort of rise for intangible experiences, this desire to actually, at the same time we're finding lots of, this was about 2 years ago now I should add, there was lots of really interesting statistics looking at how increasingly, particularly in Europe, people wanted to spend their money on an experience rather than a tangible product. So we were really interested in this idea of creating an intangible event, and then some of our key inspirations, I suppose, some of the kind of key sort of mavericks, if you like, sort of driving this experiential craze, I suppose, such as the Dutch designer Marietje Volksgang. I'm sorry, I'm sure I'm pronouncing her name wrong, but with her restaurant Prof, she was doing some really amazing events, has been for quite a few years now, really sort of redesigning the table landscape and redesigning how we interact with food, and looking at really the experiential nature of food and the dining experience, and how that, you know, that ritual is sort of embedded in humanity, and how we can sort of really bring out the sense of theatre in our dining experiences. Of course, one of our key inspirations at that time was Bombas and Parr, doing some amazing work and really sort of driving this notion of the sensorial junkie, if you like, sort of looking at how you can really play with a food experience and create an amazing sort of immersive event. We're also seeing lots of designers sort of experiment with the way that we experience food, how it's delivered to us. So simple sort of interventions such as this collection we loved, so tableware as sensorial stimuli. And then artists such as Ernesto Neto, so we were looking at sort of inspirational imagery such as this, looking at, I suppose, the tactility of food and, again, how you can sort of really bring that to the fore in the experience of dining. The other area we were really interested in was the notion of synesthesia, which again at this time designers were really beginning to play with. So that's basically looking at the sort of crossing of senses. So the idea of hearing a smell or touching a taste. So this is an example, this is noisy jelly. So this is a sort of interactive product, these jellies actually stimulate different noises, so the designer was really thinking about what's the sound of a particular colour and how do you sort of embed that meaning within a particular colour. And then another core studio that was really inspiring us at that time was Condiment Junkie. So they're actually a sonic branding agency, so they sort of create sound experiences, really interesting things, like they work quite a lot with the automotive industry, so they sort of work with a car company to synthesize the exact sound of the car door shutting. So I wasn't even aware that was actually often synthesized. It's not just the mechanics of the door shutting. It's very carefully sort of choreographed to be correct to the sound of the brand and give you the ultimate feeling of safety. So they do really sort of exciting work like that. And this is this was one of their projects recently called the Sensorium, which was working with an alcohol brand, the Singleton. And they were basically looking at how you could intervene with your other sensorial perceptions to change your sense of taste. So they work a lot with the cross-modal research department at Cambridge University, which is run by an amazing guy called Professor Charles Spence. And he's basically quantifying how much sweeter, for example, a glass of alcohol tastes if you experience it in a particular colour, or if you're listening to a particular sound, how much more bitter a glass of this malt whiskey tastes. So really exciting work about this sort of cross-modal sensory perception. So these were all the sort of inspirations that we were amassing as we moved towards the concept of secret sensory suppers. So a lot of what we do, I suppose, in a way, is effectively curation. So whether it's curating content for one of the publications we produce or curating content for an exhibition or for an event such as this. So we're really passionate about working collaboratively and really sort of working in joint forces with the amazing visionaries that are driving this type of exciting innovation. So we decided to run basically these 3 nights across 3 evenings during London Design Festival, and each working in collaboration with a different creative partner. So we invited Bombas and Pa to join us, obviously because of their amazing work. Stirring with Knives, which is a food blog run by a sort of experimental chef called Caroline Hopkinson. And then Silent Studios, who are an amazing sort of sound and video creation studio. So I was just going to take you through some images of the 3 nights. So the first night that we ran was a visionary feast with Bombas and Pa. And each different night with each different creative partner, we decided to focus on one main sense and sort of unpack that and how we could really create a sort of theatrical, sensorial dining experience, really aiming to readdress our interaction with food and sort of redesign the dining landscape. So the visionary feast with Bombas and Pa was looking at the site effectively and basically sort of pairing a dining experience with a visual experience. So Bombas and Pa came with some amazing sort of harebrained concepts as they do, and wanted to screen the film The Holy Mountain, the sort of 1970s psychedelic film. I don't know if anyone's seen it. If you haven't, it's amazing, kind of very trippy, but some really inspiring visuals. And the aim that Bombas and Pa really wanted to bring to life this film, so you were sort of eating what you were watching and watching what you were eating. Oh, I've got an amber light, so I'm going to speed up. So we were working with the Andaz chefs and basically designing every course of the meal in conjunction with the film. So we were effectively sort of bringing to life what you were watching and you were eating what you were watching. And then there were sort of theatrical elements. So at one point in the film, there's this 4-foot phallic sculpture that's paraded through as you would expect. And this was sort of brought to life. So Bombas and Park commissioned this amazing 4-foot ice penis, which they paraded round the table, and guests were invited to hack off with their mini pickaxes ice to get for their gin and tonics. There was an amazing kind of audible "ooh" from the men in the audience as the first kind of axe broke the sculpture. And then the second night was a essential night of taste and touch with Stirring with Knives, and this was to bring to life the sense of touch, basically. So we blindfolded guests, and they came into the room and were seated and were left for quite an eerily long period of time just listening to this kind of very atmospheric choral music. Then for the starter, each guest had a personal servant that fed them, basically. So they were being fed, which was quite a strange experience. And then for the main course, we basically served sort of 2 large suckling pigs. So it wasn't great for the vegetarians, but they had no tools, effectively, so we really wanted to encourage quite a sort of feral experience. We were a bit concerned that people were going to be slightly standoffish, but it was incredible. As soon as you put people in this environment and put the food on the table, they were literally diving in and sort of ripping apart the food, which was quite interesting. And then we were looking at, with the different courses, kind of creating this sensorial, tactile experience. So things like there was an egg that you had to break that had a chocolate mousse within. And then, yeah, they got very excited with their mini hammers and started hacking and eating the cake. And then just quickly, because I'm on the red light now, sorry, wow, 10 minutes is quick. The final event was the Sonata supper, Masonic supper with Silent Studios, and this was bringing to life the sense of sound and how that could intervene with the dining experience. So the starter was choreographed with the Andaz chef. So and the piece of music was designed by Silent Studios, and each action that the chef did to create the starter live in the room corresponded with a movement for the string quartet. So basically, as he was making the starter, there was this amazing symphony happening. Then guests had to literally play for their main course, so they were all giving a handbell, which apparently one of the guys at Silent Studios does this at Christmas with his family, which I think must be quite amusing. So they all have a handbell, and there was a caller, and basically they had to ring their bells when the number was called, and they ended up quite well actually playing a Mozart symphony. And then finally, guests were given a set of headphones, and again, Silent Studios created a specific piece of music that had been designed in conjunction with the dessert, so that you would kind of, I suppose, reconsider the food that you were eating, and the course was sort of looking at nostalgic sort of childhood memories of desserts, and so the music was sort of corresponding to that. And then finally, of course, you couldn't end the evening without an opera singer and lots of gold confetti. So yeah, really this was about really going to town with this sort of notion of the rise of the sensory junkie and how the dining landscape could become the ultimate in experience. Thank you very much.